Today I'm going to start working on upgrading the stereo in my '09 Bayliner 175. It comes with the stock, pretty cheesy deck and only two rear speakers, 6.5s. I went ahead and did a bit of search on different options for different radios. I want Bluetooth, obviously. CD's not really an option since you're on a boat, it's probably going to skip. And pretty much everybody uses their smartphone anyways to stream music. So I ended up going with the Sony deck receiver as well as a Sony Marine speaker. They should pair very well. The speakers have about 10 extra watts of RMS compared to the output of the receiver that I picked. Receiver's showing up today, so I'm going to start working on the speaker installation itself. These Marine speakers had pretty decent reviews through Crutchfield and Amazon, so I kind of do a little bit of homework that way. It's pretty hard to say that Sony's not a good brand, in my opinion anyways. So at about $25 a speaker, it's pretty hard to be not super happy if they don't last you their whole lifetime. You can replace them pretty easy. They are a nice unit. They are a 6.5, so it should go on the rear sections again. And one thing I noticed while taking the boat out is you can't really hear anything in the driver's seat, the front seat areas, just because the speakers are so far behind you when you're moving. You have to really just crank them up loud. It makes it kind of annoying for people that are sitting back by the engine. So I'm going to find a couple locations in the front. I think I know where I'm going to put them at currently, but we'll get the template off of the box and kind of get a little better feel for placement. They do require a 5-inch hole, so that's one thing you might want to take attention to. It's very difficult and messy to work with fiberglass if you're just going to try to cut it out with a circular saw and file it or whatever. I opted for a long time ago to order a very cheap set of hole saws. This is actually a 5-inch hole saw. I got this off Amazon as a kit from Tack Life, and it comes with just a huge variety of very large saw blades. So I think that's going to work really slick. Be able to punch a very nice clean 5-inch hole in the interior somewhere, and if it does require just a touch of hand filing, it shouldn't make a terrible mess. So I'll be doing this install out in the yard since it had a surprise rain yesterday and I didn't get the boat moved. I don't want to tear it up trying to pull it out. So I'll pop the original speakers out. We'll do a comparison on magnet size and that kind of stuff just to see if it is physically an upgrade besides just what the brand is. I think it's a Pile or Boss or something like that that comes stock in them. So we'll get to it. Take just a couple minutes to pull apart. We'll tape off some spaces and we'll get a video and see if this is an upgrade, and I'm willing to bet between the receiver and a very good speaker. It's not going to need any kind of amplification. I don't need an amp. I don't really want the battery draw, and I'm trying to avoid adding a secondary battery to it, so I'm just going to try to run it off the deck itself. I'm not going for crazy boom boom party theater, but just good, clean, just regular, relaxing music out on the water is what we're shooting for. So hopefully I got about $250 on all the components, between the 4 speakers, the receiver, and then I also ordered some 16 gauge wire. Should be fine since we're not going past 25 feet and it's under 75 watts. So technically you can get away with 18 gauge. I can't really stand that small of wire. I typically run a 14 on most stuff, but 16 should be just fine. If not, you probably won't notice anyways. So I doubt it'll get hot, but yeah, I'll get to pulling it apart and we'll find out here shortly. So these are the XS-MP1611s. First thing that I noticed is these were actually a Jensen speaker that came stock with it. They are both 65 watt max. Right off the bat, we're not going to be able to reuse the angled trim ring because the mounting area is larger on the originals. Doesn't really bother me too much. I wasn't super happy with how these things stuck out anyways. Kids bumped into it all the time. You will be able to cover up the old screw holes with the new cover. That's the good news. I'm gonna get that section cleaned up and install it. I'm not gonna be replacing the factory wiring. This is actually pretty decent sized, so that'll make it a lot easier. I was thinking this is going to be some really thin cheese ball wire, so one small step, but I'll clean this up quick, mark out the new holes, drill them. Always pre-drill whenever you're doing anything fiberglass. Makes life a lot easier. And I get one mounted in and see what she looks like. Pretty easy, pre-drilled, put them in. Covers up the old screw holes, so nothing bad there. Moving on to the radio. Factory has a couple of covers, just pop off, 4 screws, any connector behind it. I'm still kind of debating on where to place the front speakers. I'm thinking probably somewhere around here. Kind of like the idea of putting them up front because the seats will enclose them, maybe make them sound a little better. But I typically ride with the windshield shut, so I'm kind of debating for all overall sound, probably put them here. I think I'll get the new radio in, power the rears, see how they sound open air, and then maybe just do a test before I commit to cutting any holes. I was thinking just somewhere up in here in the footwell would be a pretty slick little spot for them, but they probably get wet pretty often with kids sitting up there and stuff. So I get the radio pulled, see how the rears sound, and that maybe will make the decision easy for me if they sound good open air like they are. And I might not even mess with it, I'll just stick them here. I did notice that there is some kind of a structural brace, so you can't move them forward. So it's going to pretty much have to be lined up underneath your capacity sticker. And then mine's fire extinguishers mounted behind here, but I think I got plenty of room to sneak it in between both of those things. Factory deck pops out super easy. There's a nut on the back that holds the stud just to keep it from flopping around when you're riding. Pretty surprised this is a Jensen. They didn't put any kind of markings on the outside, but I'm going to go ahead and look up this MSR 180 just to see what kind of power output they claimed. Just curious to see why they matched it with a 65 watt. I doubt this thing's putting out more than 50 watts, but worth a look anyways. I decided to go in this location. Mostly we listen to the radio while we're actually driving with the windshield closed. Also, I didn't want all the splashing and kids tearing it up in the front. It's a pretty small bow area, so I figured we just wouldn't even worry about it. It's gonna be the best sounding here, I believe. So I'm gonna get to cutting one of those holes and see how it installs. A couple little measuring tips for you. The center plug, just fold it in half and then fold it the other way. And that gives you your center, punch a hole. And that allows you to put it on your template and find perfect center. Also, you're gonna wanna make sure that they're spaced the same. So I just measured from windshield bottom in 5.5 inches. Measured down to the center, the 10 3/16. I just did the same for up here. Measured down 11 inches. And this measurement pulls back to 10 3/4. So that gives me a good plot in place. And I'll just mark that on the other side. And naturally, once I started cutting the hole, my drill battery died right away. So new battery and finish up cutting the hole. It's the carpet stuck to the back. That wasn't too bad. Darn nice clean hole. Typically harder to do with a jigsaw. Now, for the real test. Does the 5-inch hole saw allow it without any filing? Oh, perfect. I think that's going to be really nice looking.
Well, for once, I got lucky and they actually delivered something early in the day for me. This is the unit I went with, the DSX-M55BT. Very nice looking unit, pretty shallow. They're claiming 55 watts per channel. This one is 180 watt total, so 45 watt per channel. 10 extra watts, and you know, a 12-year newer unit, can't be too bad. Should be pretty straightforward. Factory wiring, once you disconnect it, everything is labeled. So I'm just going to transfer over my new wires to this one, and we'll power it up here shortly. So far, this thing is really nice. Bluetooth pair's super easy. By just pushing the call button, follow the instructions. I'm not finishing installing it. I've got one of those UV waterproof covers coming, but yeah, you don't need to amplify these at all. Running off the deck is fine. It sounds totally fine. Plenty of lows, plenty of highs. I think it'll be absolutely perfect for what I'm looking for. So, $250, heck of a nice upgrade. You can actually hear it, Bluetoothed. It's gonna be making the boat a lot better. As always, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for me.